I was born and raised in a little village in the Netherlands, where you find more greenhouses than bicycles. My dad owned a greenhouse, together with my uncle. So my whole family was working in a greenhouse. My mom, even my mom who wanted to become a nurse, met my dad at a very young age. They got married and she also had to help in the greenhouse. So more or less everybody I knew was working in a greenhouse. When I was 8 years old, my parents told me to also start helping out in the greenhouse. At 7 o'clock we woke up, 7:30 we start spending 2.5 hours bending over, searching and carefully selecting for the broken plants who were not accepted and were thrown away. 10 o'clock we had our coffee break, 10:15 exactly we had to be back to spend another 2.5 hours bending over doing the same work. My nephews loved the work, but I was begging my dad to please let me go and do my own thing. Along the years I discovered that all the conversations I had with my family, with my friends, were about how to grow a plant as fast as possible, how to become the best gardener of the village, and how to find the ideal partner to marry and have a happy life in between the greenhouses. I felt trapped. But talking about my feelings was not an option. Nobody did that. That was a sign of weakness. So the more it went on, I felt an intense desire to escape and to find my freedom somewhere else. But at the same time, I was struggling so much. When I was yelling at my parents, I acted very tough, but inside I felt very insecure. I felt like that broken plant, not accepted and trapped in a greenhouse. One day I saw an advertisement in the newspapers, waiting for a waitress in Switzerland for a new après-ski bar. I was like, yes, this is it. This is my escape. This is my opportunity to escape from my village. So I started to write a letter. It was the most exciting week of my life till then, waiting for an answer. And yes, after 2 weeks, I received a phone call with the good news. They hired me, of all people. I couldn't believe it. I called all my friends, I told my parents, and I was really going. So 3 months later, I was sitting in the train. And I already was visualizing me, myself, behind the bar, serving drinks for all the tourists, for the young people who were coming in, maybe even a handsome ski teacher who would come in and ask me to go with him on the slopes, and he would maybe even teach me how to ski, because I couldn't ski. So, dreaming about this, I fell asleep in the train, and the next morning I arrived. And I was excited. Who was going to pick me up over there? Maybe my new boss, how would he look like? Maybe all my colleagues were already there to welcome me. So I stepped out of the train. I dragged my suitcases and there was nobody. Nobody at all. I only saw a church, a restaurant and a local supermarket. So I was waiting and waiting, and then finally there was a car coming, and a grumpy man stepped out and he said, Fräulein Suzan, ich bin deine nieuwe chef, Herr Muller. And I stepped into his car, we drove to the restaurant, and I went in and it smelled like fried onions and potatoes, and when my eyes were used to the darkness, I saw furniture which belongs to my ancestors. And then there were some old guys, local friends, I think, of my boss, sitting at the bar, and they were staring at me, and then they started to talk to me, and I didn't understand a word. I really thought that with my German I learned at school, I would survive, but this Swiss dialogue they were talking, even my German teacher would not understand. So I was so disappointed, but I thought, this is the price I have to pay to find my freedom. So the next morning I dressed myself, I put my makeup, and I was ready for my first working day. At 1 o'clock exactly, all the local people came in, dressed in lederhosen, asking for the Swiss dishes, the typical dishes, talking to each other. At 3, they were all gone again, and I was waiting for other guests to come in, but nobody came in. And this happened for the rest of the week. It was every day the same. 1 o'clock they came in, having dinner, all local people. 3 o'clock they went, and there was nobody else coming. So at that moment I realized that in this local restaurant there were no tourists coming in. There were no young people, and certainly not a ski teacher. So I felt trapped again, and this time not in a greenhouse, but in a local restaurant in Switzerland. And it was Christmas Eve, and it was my first Christmas all alone. I was there on my little room. I lit a candle. I was lying on my bed, writing in my diary, and I was so sad. But at the same time, I had that feeling of failure. I didn't succeed. It was not what I expected. And it was also my pride that prevented me from admitting that it was not what I expected. So when my mom called, I said to her, "Hi Mom, yes, no, everything fine here." And I hung up. But I knew this was not going to be the place where I would find my freedom, because it went on and the same thing every day. So the next day I collected all my courage. I went to my boss and I said to him, I want to quit my job. And he became so angry. He said, "You are the name of my local après-ski bar. You are in all the newspapers and I will not let you go." But my decision was already made, and my freedom was much more important than his damn local après-ski bar. So, quitting against contract, I had to go into hiding because my boss was threatening me. He said, "If you are going to leave me, I will make sure you will not find a job anywhere in whole Switzerland." I was terrified. Where do I have to sleep? I had no place. I couldn't go back to my little room. So I started to talk to people who were not related to my boss, and I met that nice lady of the local supermarket. I told her my story, and she was so kind to offer me a bed. At least one night I could sleep at her place. So one moment I knew my boss was not in. I sneaked in the restaurant into my little room. I grabbed all my stuff and I ran away. And at that time I also realized that I had only one choice, and it was buying a train ticket back home and go back home. But that was also my pride, of course, because for me it still was that failure that I felt. So when I came home, my mom was really, really happy to have me back home, but I wasn't happy at all. I felt like that failure. And I wanted to show the opposite. So the same day, I grabbed all the newspapers I could find. I went immediately to the last page and I was searching for jobs abroad again. And this time, not in Switzerland, but I focused myself on jobs in Austria. after 3 days of searching and calling to hotels and trying everybody, I found another job. And 1 week later, I was on my way to Gerlos, a really nice ski resort in Austria, where you find where there are more than thousands of tourists coming every year. So there, my world opened up. I finally found my freedom there. I found what I was looking for. When I was skiing down the Austrian slopes, I felt the breeze in my hair, and I felt this is the ultimate freedom. I totally blossomed, and I think this experience gave me the strength to discover much more of the world, and it also realized me that you always have to follow your heart and learn from your setbacks. So the broken plant back home at my little village was thrown out of the greenhouse. But this broken plant, who was not belonging, thrived, found her freedom, and has now grown into a beautiful flower.